Give me 1 second, because you asked me to put it on YouTube. So
All right, okay. Because people can read. What I was thinking, there are some people who are in different time zones. The lady in US, she was saying also, it's a good time in the day, but because she has work, so I was saying, okay, let's see if we can put it on YouTube so people can even watch it later. And not only them, and some future
Nobody gonna be
joinees
watching
or
us.
other. What
Nobody
did
gonna
you?
watch us.
hey, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Let's see if we can put it on YouTube so people can even watch it later. And not only the lady, she sent me a message early morning that she was planning to join, but she has some work, so she would not be able to. Her name,
All right.
Nabiha,
So
Nabiha Tahir from, I think from western part. I believe she's in California or somewhere near around that in that time zone. Anyway, so what I was saying, people can even watch it later. So she wrote to me, she's a reading enthusiast and she's been there. So I said, okay, let's see if we can share with you what we do normally.
all right, let's get
So,
started.
okay, can I share now?
Yeah, you should be able to share.
Yeah.
All right, I'm able to share it now. All right. So who would like to talk about it first?
Well, I guess I should jump in since I'm the one
Sure.
that suggested the book.
All right.
The short story, not the book, but short story.
Yeah, short story.
You know, I enjoy I always enjoy Poe. And I thought this was really befitting on the backdrop of intensity, because this is, if you're going to tell a story like this is how you tell the story, right? There were moments where uh, you could place China in his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's like night and day on how you tell a story, right? Um, I know for me, it's the anguish. When I read the Pendulum, it's almost like driving in Saudi. It's like driving in Saudi.
Yeah, huh.
The
Especially when
pit and the
this is
pendulum.
like a very, very.
If when you drive in Riyadh, it's the pit and the pendulum.
I've been doing that for almost now regularly 5 days, 5 days from.
Yeah, and I like the imagery. I like the sparrow, the spatial, um, how well the Poe gives you uh, spatial imagery. Um, and it's that, it's that back and forth of wanting to give up, but your human nature, that thing in you that wants you to continue to move forward and not give up. And how, if you just continue to fight through, and you'll have unexpected allies in the rats. The rats were unexpected allies. And then if you continue to
You,
fight,
you, you call them as allies?
yeah, definitely, they're unexpected allies. They help him escape.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the rats, he wouldn't have been able to get out of his bondage. So, um, yeah, uh, Pit and the Pendulum, great short story in my opinion. Good for really good story on the backdrop, you know, you know, um, in the backdrop of all of this.
But what you think if the last part of the thing, which was happening after the pendulum, when the walls were shrinking and like.
Yeah, I mean these are the things that during the Spanish Inquisition, they were mean, they tortured people.
Mm.
And they did it with innovation. They tortured people with innovation. I don't know if you guys read about the Spanish Inquisition, but these guys were mean. They enjoyed torturing people. So it's a historical piece. Um,
Yeah, I've seen those kind of images and some of the visual, I mean, like what you call it, imaginary images, yeah, or narrations. I mean, even like last time when we were talking about the Mata Hari, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm finished. I'm finished.
Uh, all right. Who would like to
Excuse
go
me,
next?
do you find any similarity between elks and rats?
That's
That's funny.
good. That's good.
No, the elks, the
But I'm
rats
just saying
actually.
that there was like some kind of connection, or like you could see the juxtaposition of how Poe used the rats in a meaningful way, and Dean Koontz, he just squandered an opportunity with the elks. Like the elks could have had some meaning, but he just squandered that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're talking about the hope, probably the hope part, which Elk would have given to China when she was like tied up with the chair and she couldn't break it out. I mean, like that one, how she was. Probably. Yes, you were, your question, Sajid. I think Ray should be the one defending your question. I mean, defending his
I
position.
don't.
I was saying, he was saying the mouse, the rats, and the elk.
The connection between the rats and the elk. I don't think there's really any real connection. I think in real life there would be rats down there in that pit, and they were just unexpected allies. Unlike intensity, where the elk, we still are unsure of what the purpose of the elk were.
Yeah,
They
like
didn't.
I said, that was a squandered opportunity.
That was a squandered opportunity. See, and that's the difference between good writing and bad writing, right? Poe uses rats, who are what are disgusting animals, and actually, they're used to help the protagonist escape. Whereas the elk, the only thing I was thinking about this, the only thing was maybe the elk freaked Vess out enough where he didn't kill her. Because remember, he was going to kill her. But
No,
maybe
he was, he was thinking of not killing her, and then the elk freaked him out, and then he was like angry, and then he decided to kill her, and then, but because it was the other way around, but he was because he had no time, and he had plans to bury the bodies, and like he had different plans, so just he left it as according to the plot. All right. So who would like to go next? Talk about the shorts.
We have somebody new. We have somebody new on the call.
All right. Welcome. Who is that? I don't see it.
I'm Dad. Oh, and Loreto's on the call. Hello, Loreto. Hello, I'm Dad.
Hello.
They're shy.
He's muted. Maybe he didn't
Loreto?
realize that he's muted.
Hello, Loreto.
Why I can't see? Let me go different here. Gallery view. Loreto, can you hear? Your mic is muted.
Maybe might have stepped away. They might have stepped away. But let's continue the conversation.
All right, let's continue.
Yeah, the elk was a missed opportunity in intensity.
And we have newcomer.
No, and sorry, I lost my connection and just
was
able to rejoin. I was trying to say that the rats were more closely connected to the dogs and not the elks. You could connect the rats to the dogs because the rats had like they were like they ate his food and they was trying to eat him, which is like what the dogs were doing. They were both vicious. The rats were vicious, the dogs were vicious. So there was more of a connection to the dogs instead of the elks. There was no connection to the elk, but a loose one could be made to the dogs.
Yeah, that's true. I would accept that.
Yeah, because what the purpose of the meat, the thing that to attract them, or the kind of food, or like it would attract them, and that's what happened, and that's how they like it would increase their appetite. All right, who would like to go next? Welcome, Imdad, if you can hear
well,
us.
Actually,
yeah, well,
right.
I think, yeah.
Sorry,
Continue, please.
there
Sorry.
was a new guy
Okay.
on the. Yes,
Uh,
Adila, you want to go ahead?
yeah. Yeah, I was saying that fear is the most dominant theme of the story, particularly the fear of death and the unknown.
Fear of death.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, the pit represents a symbolic death, an unknown, perhaps bottomless void, while the pendulum represents a more certain but slow demise. Poe captures the primal fear of death, not only in its
Mhm.
finality, but in its agonizing process leading to it. So it was like this atmosphere.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
when he says, the odor of the sharp steel forced itself into my nostrils, I prayed. I wearied heaven with my prayer for its more speedily descent. Yeah, something
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, he's thinking that death is imminent, so he
yeah,
would be like, there is no escape out of that.
yeah.
Mhm. So, how do you like about it, or what did you not like about anything in the story?
To be honest, I don't like this kind of stories like fear and death, and but I'm kind of enjoyed reading it. It's like something,
A different
I
food
don't
for
know
you.
what's, yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Actually, the idea was last time when we read Intensity, and mostly all of us felt like only the thing in Intensity was the name. There wasn't
yeah.
much of an intensity, especially other than the first 50 pages. So it was like kind of a anticlimax kind of a situation in the end, and like whatever was happening.
Mhm.
And so Ray suggested a short story for a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons was that how the intense situations are narrated, and the suspense, and the human nature, as you said, fear of death, and how it happens in a very short span of time, all those kind of things. So probably this is 200-year-old written story, probably somewhere around, not exactly 200, but somewhere around that.
Yeah.
And the kind of techniques he used. So anyway, all right. Would you like to add something? All right.
No, thanks.
Okay. Sajid, what you would like to add? And before that, Loretto, are you still there?
She's there in
Couldn't
spirit.
respond. Yeah, she said the message. Yeah. All right, no problem. Yes, Sajid, Mr. Sajid.
Yeah. Actually, addition of rats or introduction of rats in this story shows that how we better use our choices available to us. So uh, he, uh, he, you know that rats do a favor for him, and then he is free from those ropes, from those chains.
Mhm.
Secondly, you might have heard the term death drive. So
Yeah, Death Drive.
death drive doesn't actually means death. Actually, it's a rest. It is a rest from your troubled life.
All right.
So the idea of guilt is that we want to purify ourselves. We we just reclaim things,
Mm-hmm.
and we reclaim things, and we want to get better choices available to us. So you might have heard the term of annihilation. Annihilation. So it is
Yeah.
not complete destruction. Actually, it is a restart. So uh, so the idea of nothingness or moving towards rest or moving towards death means that uh, he wants to take a restart his life. He wants to restart his life, and nothingness is just moving towards good.
All right.
So in this context, actually, he tries to restart his life. So when there is chaos, when there is so despair, hopelessness, then you take a pause, you rest, and then you restart life.
Okay.
I think you make a good point, and I think that's the point that I was trying to make. That this book is about going through challenges, right? I'm sorry, I'm printing out quizzes. This book is about going through challenges in life, and that's how I always perceived this book. Was that we all like life is one great Spanish Inquisition, right? It's just challenge after challenge after challenge. And there are times where we fall down, we fall into a slumper. Remember, he falls, he knocks himself out. There are times where there's that life gets very intense, and with the pendulum, right? There's a lot of times where we are confused about life, and we're in the dark. We don't know the depth. Remember, he was giving out how many paces he was walking, right? Um, and he was able to do that based on prior experiences and his expertise, and he used that to kind of manage and navigate his way through the pit. But there's also times where you look through the keyhole and there's a savior, right? The French army comes to save the day. And
But
and I
that was the end part. But before that,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's life, right? That's life that we always, if you keep on going, if you have grit, if you have determination, um, eventually the French army comes and saves you, right? That your enemy never really wins if you continue. Your enemy only wins when you give up the fight.
but don't you think in this regard that there was some similarity between China's character, that she's oscillating between hope and giving up the hope, and then like hope and giving up the hope again and again. Like, so there are some signs appear, as you said, like could be elk, could be anything, could be even Ariel, or like those kind of things that they appeared in. And like, sorry guys, I mean, for Adila, Ima, Lorato, we're talking about some of the things that you were not there. I mean, like we are relating to some part of the previous story, and I'm like taken away by that. So I had kind of less choice, or I had a, but I was thinking there was some point that we were saying why China was behaving that way. So I was asking Gray, so don't you find that similar kind of a situation where the prisoner and China, and how hopeful, and then he loses the hope, then he gets the hope, then he loses, and then like.
I mean, listen, yes, there's a lot of similarities between China and our protagonist here, because I think that's life, right? And that's the point that I'm making. The difference is China puts herself in a continuously put herself in a bad situation, whereas this guy didn't necessarily ask for this, right? I mean, I don't know what he did to get in the big the. They don't tell us what he did to get in the bad graces of his captors, but I'm pretty sure he didn't volunteer to be in the pit. I'm
But
sure of that.
but you saw the fly freeze situations here, like when he got frozen, he had been like fainted and those kind of situations. then he's thinking of flying away, then he's thinking of fighting back.
And yeah, that's life, right? That's the point I was making about perseverance. This is a story of perseverance, and in many cases, intensity is a story of perseverance, right? And I think Adela, what did you say? This is a story of life and death.
Fear of
How
death.
did you put it, Adela?
Fear of death and
Fear of
Fear
right.
of death.
So the fear of death. That's what's interesting about perseverance, right? Is that we fear death so much that we try to avoid it as much as we possibly can. We fear it that much. It's a respect fear of death that most of us have. Not all.
Yeah.
Some of us don't have that.
But ultimately, he was gonna have to make a choice of how he was going to die. That's what I got out of. That was the main thing for me. Like, how am I going to die? Do I want to die by falling in this pit? Do I want to die by getting eaten alive by rats? Do I want to die by the sharp blade of this pendulum cutting into my chest? How? You know? Does anyone watch the Saw movies? Because I could relate this to the horror movies, the Saw series.
I've watched it.
Yeah, so like, you know, there's someone that's been captured, and then they have this choice. Do you want to cut off your arm to save yourself? Like, you can save yourself, but you got to cut off your arm or cut off your limb, or you can get out, but you got to, you know, you have to like do some self-harm to save yourself. So this is kind of like I made a connection there, because like he had to decide, well, okay, I'm gonna die. How am I gonna do this? And so like he didn't, at first he didn't want the blade, but then after he got free, after he got himself loose from his bondages, he was like, oh, maybe I should have taken the blade, because then it would all be over by now. So now I'm gonna have to, now he's either gonna be falling into the well or having these rats eat me, you know.
I mean, sorry, have you finished? It is like shocking how the cruel methods of punishment, like it enhances the horror of it enhances the horror scene, and the oppressive atmosphere of the dungeon, combined with the fear of torture at the hands of the Inquisition. It does this. I mean, it makes the story intense. And if this was the situation back then, if they used these methods for punishment, this is like real horrible torture.
This is nothing. This is nothing. They were using even gruesome methods. Ray, you are silent. Your mic is muted.
You're muted, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's been, I mean, the Spanish Inquisition was horrible, but I think there's been other points in history, even up to recent history. I mean, look at some of the things that ISIS was doing to people recently, before their horrible things to people.
If you would have seen like those museums, or where they tortured the royals and some of the kings, and even in Britain I'm talking about, you would see that how horrible situations or things were there in the past. And definitely these kind of things would cost a lot of money, underground stuff and stuff like that. Anyway, Yasmin, you want to say something? You didn't formally say something. I wanted to note some points from you. I couldn't get.
I've made all of my points except for one. The way that the short story was written followed a similar pattern to intensity. It started off really intense, and then there was a part in the middle where it just kind of went on and on. I can't even remember what he was describing, because I kind of like zoned out, but he just kept going on and on and on.
Yeah, there was some parts, because it I was thinking,
reminded me of intensity.
The same kind of thing, same kind of thinking. That I was thinking that it is just like 12, 13 pages. And so even you have gone 50%, let's say, when you are page 7, and what is this one now going to happen? And then now is just the kind of in that short, intense story, and you slowed down.
Yeah.
And okay, go ahead.
No, that was it. That was the point, that there was it was high, it was intense, and then there was a lull, and then it got intense
Mhm.
again at the end. It's like
Yeah, all the
intensity.
if you see the actual scene of the last, I mean, is in the last couple of pages when the blade starts moving or the pendulum starts moving. That's the time things get intense. Before he says, even some of the things days have passed, how he was like intoxicated and he didn't know how much time has passed. But the real messages, I'm not getting it on my laptop, but I'm getting it on my iPad.
Let Jasmine do it because I got the noise in the background.
Sure. From Loretto, she says, "Good evening. Sorry I couldn't respond. My phone is giving me issues. I cannot open my mic." And then from Mdod, "I apologize for not responding. I'm traveling presently." And from Loretto, "For me, this was an okay read. What stood out the most was the nature of fear."
Mhm.
End of
Okay.
messages.
All right. I was just even like, I will tell you, I was trying to make out, and I was using the AI to see and how the dungeon would have looked like.
Oh,
That first thing,
looks
the hole,
horrible.
and then the first thing, and then I was
Good
trying
job.
to
Oh,
so I was trying to create the thing, and then the yellow light, and how the pit, and how the ras, and even the first one. If you see this one, like how the candles would have looked to him, and how the judges. So I tried to hunt for it to see how he would be feeling. So and then like this is the last part when this thing was happening, and this is like I was thinking, and there are the first figure, it gave me too many rats. Then I said, just give me less on that.
But
There
there
was
wasn't a flame in the room. It was dark.
yeah,
The
it was
only
dark,
time there was
but
light was when somebody like
yeah,
opened the door to like put in
I
the food or the water or
was,
whatever.
yeah, there was something, I think in this picture, probably, yes. So I couldn't see when I was trying to say the yellow light was not coming. And then I said, probably a torch, something up. Then he put the torch up, down, like, so I was trying to create a prison cell by instructing the AI agent. So this was the pendulum. And if you see here, some details here, how it would have been and would have been coming down. And the pit in the center of and the rats around his pot and something. Some of them were like, so anyway, I had some points written here.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
have a we move
Yes,
on.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to pose a question. Why do you think humanity has always been fascinated with how people die in these? Why do you think societies are fascinated with how people die?
because it's, I think,
When I say
because it's something we don't know. It's something unknown. Nobody knows
It's if you're talking
exactly
no,
what
about like,
happens.
well, I'm talking about like murder, like killing someone.
yeah, that's what I was coming to.
Okay.
It's not everybody's fascination. It's a very less or very like minor percentage of the people in the society that who would, I mean, most of the people would try to run away, even not think about it, even like they would not like to see something.
No, I disagree. I think there is times in history, like for instance, in America, people would go on Sundays to watch hangings in the town square. That was, in fact, people would have picnics to watch hangings at the courthouse on the town square after church.
How many of you have watched it? I mean, there's, if I were to ask you.
And then there are, remember Faces of Death? Yasmin, you remember Faces of Death? Faces of Death was this is before the internet. Like there was a video series back in the days of VHS, and people were fascinated with this. I wouldn't call it a documentary, but it basically showed how people is always curious to me why the guillotine, which I think the guillotine is kind of a humane death, but it's definitely torturous while your head is in those moments before. Even here in Saudi with the beheadings, what makes us so fascinated with watching people die or coming up with
That's a good question.
I mean,
It's like
like,
fascinating when it's not happening to you and you're curious to see what's going to happen. Because even like when people die, oh, how did they die? What happened? Or like people rubbernecking when there's an accident on the road.
well,
And then here in Saudi, they used to be famous for just like leaving the bodies laid out on the road. So you just driving down the road and there's a body just laid out. You know, they don't try to hide it or cover it up, anything. So when it's not happening to you and you're like a safe
well,
distance away
it's a
from
very
it, you're
painful. It's a very
curious to see
painful
because
situation. Like I remember, I have seen people
let
die
no,
in
that
my
that
own
was about it.
eyes. I mean,
Yasmin finish
especially.
her thought,
That was
please.
it. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry. I was taken away. Like, I mean, it reminded me of these things when I saw. So that's why it kind of triggered the idea. Yeah, it's a horrible situation, especially for. I mean,
Do you think people want to watch deaths to see what to see how it might their experience might be? Because it's unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Personally, I don't want to watch anybody die.
But it happens
it's a,
like when you're in the hospital with your loved ones and they're on their deathbed.
yeah, but
Are you
like,
not saying you wouldn't want to be with your
No,
significant other when they're having
I
their
don't think
last moments?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I've had it happen a couple times where I could have been there, but for whatever fate I wasn't, and I was kind of glad I wasn't there. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm personally I'm scared of death.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And um I just don't want I just want to live this life and I don't want to see death. I want to see
this
life.
is this is
I,
this is
I
what
love
the
it when
life is
babies
all
cry.
about. This is what is instilled in us. I mean, like, this is human nature. Even you run away from a death when hurricanes and things are like, if you see now the season of tornadoes, hurricanes, so nobody wants to be in that situation.
Nope.
And to my experience, especially, it's everlasting. I have seen many times. I have seen beheadings, but it is like a very gruesome, I mean, very painful, like gut wrenching kind of feeling. It's like very painful, and you would not forget it for a long, long time. Anyway, let's
So
talk about.
it's interesting because Poe life was. Are you guys familiar with Poe? So I'm into Poe because Poe died in my hometown.
Yep.
In fact, we have a ceremony for
Yeah.
Poe every year, where somebody puts
Yeah.
black roses on his grave.
Yeah, they have
And
even I think they made a new monument there.
oh, I'm not sure about that. I know it's at his gravesite.
I
But
mean,
he had a very
yeah, sure.
what's the word? It was productive life, but things didn't go his way, you know. It was a sad
Yeah.
life he had at writing. Look at the stuff he wrote: Pendulum, The Raven, A Cast of Amontillado, the Black Cat. I mean, all these things were very good short stories. And do you think it's because he was fascinated with death and then
His
ultimately
own death
dies
was
early?
like a mystery still today, and even like people couldn't. And he died at a very young
Yes, he
age of
died very
40, I
young,
think.
and I think he died of melancholy.
Yeah.
I think he died of melancholy. Nothing happened well in
He
his
was
life.
alcoholic also, and also there were situations or things that, as you said, melancholic. So there were um, psychological and physiological reasons as well. Anyway, nobody knows how he died. And that's what I read about him, that where he was buried. So after that, they took out his casket or whatever that thing was there, and then they reburied him somewhere and made a monument there. What I was talking about, what I wanted to discuss, like he said, this was like kind of intriguing. In death, no. Even in the grave, all is not lost. So what I was thinking of asking you guys, that is it like he's talking about a premature burial or a metaphor for some deeper concept?
Actually, he's not losing hope. At any stage, he's
Okay,
not losing hope.
let's say the
And he
last
doesn't
part.
want to
Even in the
die.
grave, all is not. When he's in the grave, what it does mean?
Yeah, in the grave, all is not lost. It means he's not ready to lose hope. And he doesn't want to die on others' terms. He wants to die on his own terms. That's why he keeps making effort to get rid of this cell dungeon.
Ray, how you would see it?
The same that Mr. Sajid said, same way.
Mm-hmm. You asked me? Do you see the deeper concept of like spirituality or something lives after, even after he dies?
No, I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Laredo says yes.
All right. So means spirit lives after the death. I mean, like even if your body dies, the spirit lives after. And maybe some other deeper concepts that your good deeds or something would live even after.
Can I insert one more thing? I'm genuinely curious about this. Like the reason people smoke, right? And we all know the consequences of smoking, that it's a slow, painful death, that it's just a slow death, right? Your lungs get black, you get CPD, what's it called? What is that? The breathing, I forgot what it's called, the disease. I mean, like it's a slow death, cancer. Why do you think, I mean, we call them cancer sticks, right? Why do you think people smoke knowing that the inevitable will happen to
Yeah,
them?
I've been always asking myself this question. I couldn't get an like a
Well,
reasonable
because it's a
answer
I
about.
drug
would
and
be
they're
the
addicted.
last
It's a
one to do
drug and
that.
they're
That's weird.
addicted.
Let's ask Loretta what's her point. She would write, and let's ask Yasmin.
Loretto says it is not because of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It is
And then
not
what it is
because of
for?
addiction.
Yeah, Yasmin, what you have to say about Ray's question?
Echo
I
is a
answered. I said because they were addicted. It's a
Yeah.
drug and they're addicted. And Loretto is disagreeing. She's saying it's not
right.
because of an addiction.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for her to
All right.
continue the response.
Mr. Sajid, Ray's question: why people would smoke and go into slow poisoning and they know that it's going to be a slow death?
Maybe some people deny that. Some people say that no, it's not that harmful, and doctors exaggerate. They don't believe that it will cause death or fatal diseases.
I was about to say I misread Loretto's statement. She said, "Is it not because of addiction?" So she's agreeing that people are smoking because it's an addiction.
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's because what I was saying, 2 points here. People, when did people know about that smoking is cancerous?
And maybe they think if they died, there is something better in the afterlife. I don't know. I'm just
They cannot imagine whatever
What?
you imagine, whatever the picture you have in your mind. The lungs would get blacker, or
yeah.
they would not be able to provide you the oxygen, and they would die before you. And other forms of other diseases, and cancer is one of them. So no matter whatever you have, the addiction parts takes over, and then they forget about. And some of them, I mean, in my opinion, the discovery of the relationship of cancer to smoking is very recent, and people have been smoking different forms of smoking all over the world. Hookah, shisha, you name it.
But for many people, sorry, don't forget, for many people, they think they won't die unless God will they will end their life.
I didn't get
so
you.
anyway, they're gonna die.
I didn't get you quite. I mean, I didn't understand.
For some people, for some people, they believe that they won't die unless God wants them to die. So this is not a reason for death for them. I'm just trying to
their point of view.
analyze what I think.
Your point, Mr. Hassan, I think, in the 50s and 60s, when the life expectancy was in the 50s, we got to remember during the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, when people were smoking a lot, the life expectancy was already short. All right, now the life expectancy it's in the 70s. For women, is almost 80. So, and now we see the effects of carcinogens that's in the cigarettes, right? And it's worse than, the cigarettes were probably better in the 50s and 60s because they didn't have the level of carcinogens that they're in there now. And so my ultimate point is, are we addicted to death? And when you smoke a cigarette, are you really addicted to death?
I don't think you're addicted to death. I think you're smoking the cigarette because there is something that you get from it that you enjoy. And Laredo says, to Ray's point, she said no. you're smoking it because you're getting some kind of benefit from it at the time. You're feeling high, calm, da da da. You think you might looking cool. It might be peer pressure. But I want to take it a step further and talk about diet. I eat fried chicken. I know fried chicken isn't the best thing to eat because of the cholesterol and the oils and the fats and this and that or whatever, but I'm eating my fried chicken. Why? Because I like it. And I know I'm gonna die. So let me die happy. Let me die with this greasy piece of chicken in my mouth. Let me die happy. I know I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die from something. So I'm choosing my death by fried chicken.
See, but see, there's medical, there are medical debates about the fried chicken thing. All right, we know fried is not the best for us, but we know that their diet will live to be 90, right? But you know, there are very few.
There are people that smoke every day and still live to 90.
True. But here's the thing. There's a lot more people who eat fried chicken and also skinny, right?
But there are very few because of the genetic.
One thing's for sure. If you live long enough and you smoke long enough, you're going to have something. That's number one. And number two, I always ask smokers this one question, always for the last 20 years. What do you get out of smoking? Coherently tell me the benefit they get from smoking, other than is it something to pass time with? So what are they addicted to? Okay, you do crack. Crack gets you high. Heroin gets you high. Cocaine gets you high. Alcohol gets you drunk. Tobacco doesn't do those things.
It doesn't give you anything. I don't think
Laredo responded that people often choose these habits because it started cool and trendy.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, like in
sometimes
their
peer
teens.
Pressure.
Most of the smokers, they pick up their smoking habits in their teens.
There's a lot of things that are trendy that we do as teens that we end up breaking away from. Lots of things.
I think this is a very long discussion, and also I'm talking about not this discussion. I'm talking about the smoking, and I have done some initial studies, some deep studies initially, and we can talk about, and I can just wrap this thing. It's all about addiction. It's all about addiction, and the nerve who gets conditioned and used to it, and there are some systems inside that makes us like addicted to, and we cannot leave it. So even despite we have a logical,
I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I think that the addiction thing is a cop-out. It's an excuse that people make. Because I come from a place where people are addicted. I come from Baltimore, Maryland, where we have addiction issues, right? Heroin, cocaine, crack, alcohol. And I've seen people cold turkey, the worst crackheads, cold turkey, stop. Miles Davis, John Coltrane, the best jazz musicians were addicted to heroin, and they just stopped cold turkey. They didn't need any 5-step program. They didn't need any counseling. They just stopped. I think this addiction thing is a cop-out. I think it's something that it's culturally say, okay, I'm just addicted. I think people ultimately are fascinated with death.
Just a minute.
I think we like to. I think ultimately we like to push that line. It's like the guys who go skydiving. What's the one where they jump off the cliff and they fly with the suit? What is that called? With the suit, what's that called?
I don't know, but I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it right now.
I mean, we call them adrenaline junkies, but they're really death junkies. When you jump off that cliff with that suit, that's death, right? You're playing with death. Do we call that an addiction also? Is that an addiction?
To some, it is. Some seek out that adrenaline rush all the time. They want that that dopamine rush.
So I think ultimately what I always get out of reading this book is that our fascination with death and in our just inherent life is full of fear. It's full of obstacles. And we have to decide how much we're going to resist. Like Mr. Sajid said earlier, we have to decide what, and I think he hit it on the head, right? He said, I'm going to decide the terms in which I die. So when you smoke a cigarette, you're saying, this is the way I want to go out, right? When you jump off a cliff and you with that suit, you're ultimately saying, this is the way I want to go out. I remember when I was a young soldier, a young officer, And my thing was I wanted to die in a battlefield. I thought that was so romantic to die on the battlefield. I thought that would be the most romantic thing. And I was even picturing the newspaper article and back home in the Baltimore Sun, and it's this romantic idea. And until I had kids, and then now I'm scared. Now I'm scared to death. But children make you scared of death. But so but I was at that point where I was not afraid to die, and going on the battlefield fighting, I wanted to be an infantry officer. That's what I wanted. I didn't want anything else. I wanted to be an infantry officer, right?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
thought it
called
was
carefree, and like you don't have any dependencies on you.
so I thought that was romantic. So I know what that feels like, and I think many people. I don't think I'm an outlier. I think many people silently have a fascination with death. We're addicted to death. It's not okay to say that, but I think ultimately we are. But if we weren't, then we won't have we if we weren't addicted to death, what's going on in Lebanon? What's going on in Gaza? What's going on all around is Sudan?
Well,
It would
that's a
not
power
happen. It
struggle.
would not
Most of the
it would
thing
not
that
happen. People would not tolerate it. If we weren't addicted to death, the people wouldn't tolerate it. We have a UN. We have this place called the United Nations, right?
right.
We tolerate war. We permit that. We like it. We like to see it,
Yeah, we
right?
came out from there. Yeah,
If
it's
we
in our
weren't,
ancestry.
right? You don't have somebody, what's the young girl, Gretchen, whatever her name, about climate change? We don't have a young boy or a young girl saying stop war and that we listen to,
Yeah,
right?
Greta,
Stop.
it's something like Greta.
Laredo says some people premeditate their death mainly because they're looking for a sense of control over the situation.
No, he's talking about, I mean, no, Ray was talking about fascinating the death of others, not for himself. Like getting used to getting addicted to death means not for his own death, but for others' death.
I think both. I was talking about both because I was
All
at
right.
the point where I was okay with a death at a certain way on my own terms, which agrees with Laredo, but also the same. I think we also addicted to other people's deaths. This is why on the news cycle you hear about these hurricanes, you know, um, because they're hurricanes, there's natural disasters that happen all around the world, and we only highlight the ones that happen in
Yeah, because
America
that's
or the
sells.
UK. Why is that? Because some
Because
life
that
is
sells.
because we think some life is more valuable than others. So it's cooler to see when those people die is way more interesting. Death
I
from a
think they highlight all, I want to say all the tragedies, but quite a few. Because like when they had like the tsunamis, when they had the tsunamis in Japan and China and the earthquakes and stuff, the news cycle covers that.
that's when it's outrageous. But like for instance, there are things that happen in South Africa. They never make
Make
cities,
which
right?
who it doesn't make
There are
who's
things.
news.
And now I'm talking about like BBC, which is
Yeah, I
supposed to
mean
be.
those people whose business is to sell the news, and they shape the news, and they even shape the kind of demand for it. So
They're
there is a
natural
high level of
all the time in South America, all the time in parts of Africa, all the time in Sri Lanka, and that just unless it's they get they get
that's the
2 days.
politics probably, and the power sharing and power getting, and those kind of things. Those things like you want to be dominant.
It's
So I mean
10:02.
that's a whole different debate. And but
It's
as long
10:02.
as it
We
is
gotta wrap
related to
it up. We gotta wrap it up.
no, I was thinking, I'm like, here was something I wrote it here when he miscalculated. So that came to my point. I mean, like, Poe's adjustment on, like, he was trying to be careful and see that when he went in this direction and this direction, so his calculation to equalize that is like carefully knitted plot. So that's what I wanted to highlight. And also, this one was intriguing when he said milder and then he smiled. You remember then he was saying that milder and then like If you remember, then he smiled like in that agony as well. And amongst the agonies, then he's still like he wanted to have food. He was hungry. Think like somebody's walking to the gallows and like
All right, I gotta move on to my next thing, guys.
All right.
Let's rate this short story. I'll go first. We're doing out of 5.
Yes.
Pit and Pendulum, you know where I'm going with this. 4.8.
Oh. Okay.
Out of
Let's
5.
see. Yeah. 3.5.
Yeah,
My rating is 3.5.
It's
My
a
rating is
classic.
I give it 4.5.
Okay,
I'll
yes.
give it 4.
Sajid.
4.95.
Woo! Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. There you go.
Don't expect me to give any 5. I'm 4.
Laredo's laughing at us.
4. For me, it's 4.
So we have the
New
new book. It took me 2 hours to figure out how to rip that book, but it's also
Yeah.
available on Audible if you want to pay for it and listen to it. Audible or Kindle Audible. I think it's like $9. If you have Audible, then it's part of your subscription. And yeah, so we're gonna read how many chapters of this?
There are 12 chapters. What I was seeing, there are only 65 pages, I think. 65
Yeah,
pages.
it's not long. Yeah.
So how you want to break it up? Or you
This
want
is
to
only
just read it? Only 65 pages. It's a 1-week read.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the original version was around 100 some pages, but then I saw this one.
Hold on. So this is the one I ripped?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the one.
I ripped it straight from Amazon. So I guess that's right.
You want to
look
see
at
how
it.
many pages? The last part of the thing?
Is that the end of the book?
Check the last area because it says about the author, and then this is the one.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So we could
65.
okay. Interesting.
Maybe
So
because the font got smaller.
I don't know. So we knock it out in 1 week or 2. We split it in 2.
It depends how you want to do that.
How you guys want to do it?
You want to see there was any other version or something like that?
No, I mean that's supposed to be the actual book. I'll look again. Yeah, 65 pages. That's the actual book that I just purchased. I paid $20 for that book.
Ooh.
All right. Okay then.
So I'll check again, make sure it ripped, but it looks like it's right because it's about it looks right. So yeah. So what do you guys want to do? You want to knock it all out this week, or you want to split it in half?
1 week.
For me, Yasmin, Ray, I don't think so. It's an issue, but let's ask Sajid and Adila and Lorato.
Writer is not a native speaker, so probably he used easier diction. We can do it in 1 week.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush.
Lorato.
Now, can we agree that if because I got a feeling this is going to touch on some really interesting topics. I don't want to rush
Topics
it.
are
You wanna do it in
interesting,
2
but
sessions?
language is not
Easy.
complex.
Yeah,
here.
it's a very smooth sailing.
Okay, because I don't want to rush it if it's really tapping into some really like serious stuff. But okay, let's go and knock it out and see what happens.
I was going to say we could read it in 1 week, and if we need 2 weeks to discuss, then we can just take 2 weeks to discuss.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also, before we leave, I gotta apologize. I was supposed to do something and I didn't do my homework. Bad.
No worries, because it's a busy time.
Because I had the idea in my head, so I'm gonna try to knock it out before this weekend and upload it, so the next person can start.
I was thinking.
Please don't beat me.
I was thinking that if the guy who would write it, he would send it to the next guy who's going to write the next part, and then in the end, everybody reads it. What do you think, Yasmin?
I'll just post it and see who wants to go for it, and everybody can go for it, right? Nobody, and then we'll just put it in. We'll just put it in, like
Okay.
Let's see how the story reads.
If we start a Google Doc, we can all get on and do it at the same time.
Yeah, but story has to reach to some point. Yeah, but
we can all.
Yeah, that's
Whenever
technically
we
no
just
issue.
feel like jumping in, we could just jump in.
Yeah, technically it's not an issue, but story has to reach at some point from one writer's mind or point of view, and then the other one starts taking.
Yeah, I think it's better to do it that way. Let the writer finish his thought and then turn it over to the next person.
Yeah, in the end, if you want to harmonize things, that's another issue. Or
It'd be interesting to see how it reads, because then because everybody would have an idea of where the story was going to go, and then it's going to go in a different direction because somebody else is writing. Let's see. Let's try it out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So for those people who weren't here last week, basically what we decided is I was supposed to have at least one page written of a story, and then I will post it, and then somebody else can jump in and write another page or whatever you feel like writing, a page, a sentence. It don't have to be a page, whatever you want to contribute, and then somebody else would jump in, and then when we're finished, we would read it and see how it turned out.
Good. Looks interesting, yeah.
All right, guys. See you guys next week, and hopefully by Friday I will have my contribution started.
Sure.
Good.
Good conversation
Good.
tonight, guys. Good conversation.
Sure. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, and
Thank
good night,
you.
everybody from
Good
Laredo.
night.
And thank you, and good
Good
night
night.
from me.